Oh, we would like such a dubbing. Otherwise poop, poop, poop. Okay. Today the Sony company's project is being analyzed, and on the walks of a liquid black charismatic and on a planetary origin, with a chasing Venom, plus the main opponent of the human Poke. However, considering that at present, the rights to Poke are partially transferred to Disney and the shooter is actively helping the Avengers to persuade the Purple Jock, Venom has to go alone and take out his first half-length film. Although judging by the collections of the Yazakastinka, he still managed, and therefore the continuation of the decline, which cannot but rejoice, since Sin reviews on Super Duroku are not superfluous. What do we have as a result of a budget of 100 million? The children's rating is 13+, directed by Ruben Fleischer, who shot an excellent Welcome to Zombieland and, starring Tom Hardy, who is credited with saving Venoma is at the box office. But if it wasn't for his talented game, Venom would have sunk into the abyss of the Kassav failure. As in due time, a head with a Benom flick was slammed there, a woman's cat with a Halle Berry, a Green Lantern with a Reynolds. Venom himself is a rather controversial personality in the film. Who is familiar with Venom and from the third to the UKSM Remy, as well as with the cartoon? A person who is 94 years old knows that this planetary thing is a parasite that simply lives at the expense of another and improves the physical parameter of the carrier. Also, the bearer's character changes dramatically. He becomes more aggressive, arrogant and unsociable. The current version, the symbiote uses the carrier as a kind of place of residence and he can do with it whatever the soul wants. Moreover, the character of a person remains the same as it was before. Yes, and the general atmosphere, such a feeling that the film comes from zero. The beginning is serious, is being pumped up, drama and suspense, and in the middle with the appearance of the most bilious, the film rapidly turns into a comedy. Well, all in order. This is the research ship of the Foundation of Life Company, on which, immediately after the report, the embiotes are collected. There is an emergency with catastrophic consequences. Ask how the sample managed to get out and attack the head of the crew, if in the sane in sealed capsules, or a similar hasty scientist was enrolled in the team, who loves to push his little hands to live on a planetary form without proper study. The second question to the symbiote, if it attacked the country, why was it necessary to disable the shuttles? As it turns out later, fire is deadly for them, so actions in which a ship is deliberately smashed, hoping to survive a temperature of several thousand degrees, raise strong doubts that symbiotes are a reasonable form of life. Although, look at such a crash, it's not enough that the containers are intact, so I'm also one whole body. Even my clothes are not burned. Yes, and the shuttle symbiotes fell in Malaysia, where there is a quaternary climate, with an average annual temperature of +28, and here people have a couple of rust, plus Malaysian or east side traffic, such as in England, and the symbiote cuts up the ambulance whether the thief. And where did so many dry yellow leaves come from in a tropical country? Okay, the Malaysian blunders are so small, but what really scares is the absence of the highest level of quarantine at the crash site. That a person who was on board a ship with an alien life form can be taken away so freely in an ambulance. What could possibly go wrong? Yes, and the symbiote is definitely stupid, at least this one. Instead of Poitier in the faces of the Felcher, ask the driver to stay, get rid of him and get behind the wheel. The fuck started a means of transportation and walked. It is not surprising that this Torma will take 6 months to get to San Francisco. In the meantime, in the town where it should be, the symbiote wakes up Egdi Brock, who's doing great. Beloved woman. 2-cylinder handsome Ducati, a scrambler and its own rating program, where it cuts the truth of the uterus about everything and everyone. And so the boss sends Egdi to take the U-Miller of Dare the scientist, of the main bad guy of the picture and the goat as an interview person. Egdi begins to slip, but the boss insists that Egdi hide his pride away and just ask riches in neutral harmless questions. In addition, the boss reinforces his request with a warning. Can Derek kill us with one click? If everything is so serious, and the boss knows the character of Brock's reputation, which prevented him from sending a more accommodating reporter so that the interview would go without excesses. There is no wife. It is necessary to send the truth of cutting personalities having skeletons in the closet and ask to be as loyal to him as possible. I've seen a lot of such jerks. In general, Eddie Kutra needs to dig up dirty information on Drake's column, and his stepfather's girlfriend just works for a company that cooperates with the Drake Corporation, and Eddie learns the password from her work. Even I keep the passwords of my household secret, so that God forbid what is not spoiled on the working computer. Bitch. Opa. Right now a letter comes from the corporation with the necessary compromising material, where it is written in black and white that the background in life in its research is not averse to walking over corpses. And whoever thought of such a thing in their life? Plans for a terrible crime. Experiments on the Duma to send to contractors and court contractors. And here is our gypsy villain Elon Musk. And who? Are you offended? Carol Tandrake in the comics was a domineering and solid man. The film is funny and looks like a typical villain from children's cartoons. With talk of world domination, ambitious plans, everything is in this vein. That's exactly what he was made according to the manual. How to hook up for a well-traveled Durkanashni villain. Yes, and who has the leading scientists on the study of the Planeteer accommodates the position of secretary. It is not surprising that the crossing of symbiotes with humans proceeds rather sluggishly. I would even say very herovo. But how else, if the main scientists are engaged in such a minor thing as organizing journalists in the third? It's just logic. The interview is in full swing and Eddie, as an experienced journalist, of course, pointed the accusation at Drake, based on one and someone sent by his girlfriend. Without concrete evidence, I'll pair them with evidence. Suits, the formal Hell Clan in the spirit. Fuck you. Asshole. After which Drake quite rightly calls the guards and they quite rightly push Eddie out. What kind of unprofessionalism? The boss quite rightly drives Eddie out of work, since he cannot reveal the source and confirm the accusation here. What was the point then? In a stopwatch trolling Heimilder? What do you say? Professional journalism. But the speed of the security service in the contracting office is prohibitive. Half a day has not passed since the scandal broke out, and the girlfriend, Eddie, is already being thrown out of work with a stirrer. By the way, Eddie's breakup with his girlfriend smacks clearly of kindergartens. Adults. He betrothed her with a ring. They love each other, but it cost a man to dig into her computer somehow, immediately throws him. And if Eddie did not disclose the source, how did they figure out a friend in just a couple of hours and manage to fire her? Yes, there's only a way to run all day. And she's good. She was offended because of the dismissal. And I'm sure Eddie took the information from her. It is clear that Nam could have suspected this. But, to cut off from the shoulder like that without even giving Eddie the opportunity to justify himself is quite strange. But then the film steps onto the path of dull social dramas. The fall of a person who has committed a fatal mistake by his own stupidity. Whereas a cool journalist, but he cannot find a job that he is ready to go even to the Sudamoika. Can you imagine if they were kicked out of Channel 1 late, and no channel wanted to drill such an ultra-media journalist that it would be late to put on clothes and think that it was time to go to school to smoke? At least they thought a little about the plot development. It doesn't seem like it. And Tom Hardy himself is still a miscast. It's still hard to believe in the timidity of a man with the dimensions of a villain from another film universe. Hardy can't play losers. He's actually real. In the meantime, Drake naturally gets a live bubblegum delivered at night in the pouring rain. And somewhere Zakianam continues Samoloziski vacation, an symbiote who is so hungry that he was dragged to the market and did not even think about just eating the first person he met. And here, on the Stepenka, the alien, on the seller's claims, proves that the client is always right, simultaneously deals with the Mwozhan Shushara, strewing everything around with spikes that do not leave a single tag on the Felsher's bullet. Plus, by pure chance, only one body suitable for the symbiote remains alive. He was trampled here by the contradiction of the plot. The film is largely based on the fact that symbiotes are not able to survive in any human body. Merging with the host, the symbiote quickly depletes its body, or simply kills it. As a result, Drake's team cannot find the optimal carrier in any way. And at the same time, the escaped symbiote is a riot or a right, and swings from body to body without any problems. even chooses an old woman in which she passes through Malaysia for 6 months, and then without straining a little girl, and who, Riot knows for sure from somewhere that she is flying to San Francisco, and it is necessary to symbiote with her. And now the creature, with the help of the hands of a mad montage, Hirik gets to California. And how the child managed to go through passport control alone at the airport without a single question, one can only guess. Yes, perhaps her parents were with her, and the symbiote did not manifest itself during the entire flight, but it was possible to show it. That's how such misunderstandings arise when 40 minutes of the filmed material are cut out of the film. And while the Fondy of life goes through an exceptionally unsuccessful attempt to cross the muck with a person, we also learn Drake's motives. Wars don't count. This is a planet on the verge of collapse. I am sure that God left us long ago. What did you take that for? Yes, that's right. Another fool covering up his heinous deeds with a higher goal. I made up my mind in a sick head that humanity began to live in a generation, and let's destroy it with the help of an organism in the Clientar planet. The test subjects are dying one by one. The head of Drake does not like this situation, and she decides to seek help from a former journalist, and de Brock, without any evidence. So, in words, he floods the molephone, crosses people with aliens in life. These of course raise her sniffles, because leading scientists cannot back up their words even with photos from the phone. Although judging by the fact that literally in a couple of hours, she herself will conduct an outsider at night to the alien study facility, they have absolutely no security there. And I think it would not be a problem to bring out real evidence. In general, Eddie says that he is not interested in it at all. Fuck it. Goes to visit an ex-girlfriend, where at the same time to get acquainted with her new boyfriend. And after being a little sad on the pavement, he still decides to get involved in something that will allow the film to collect 800 million rentals. It's high time, and it's already 33 minutes of the movie, and you still don't smell of wine. Well, I rushed. If you need to take a person to a secure facility, then of course no one will search the car, and they won't even dedicate an X-ray, and the entrances are completely free and unguarded. But most of all, the doctor's introductory story introduces the humor. One of his research rockets, halfway to Earth, met a comet. The instructor found signs of life on it. In what sense? And it's curious how the astronauts from the comet collected symbiotes, landed on a passing comet, in about this way, or what? Making the goal of visual justum. The heroes are inside and you can roam freely throughout the complex, because the company, exploring the depths of space on advanced spaceships, skimped on security. But no, here's one walking, patrolling. The doctor hides these in the laboratory, which also has not a single living soul from the staff. And this is at the moment when one of the wards of the bundle is a symbiote, where round-the-clock monitoring of the object, collection of analyses, inclusion of indicators, characteristics, habits, manifestations, and so on. Up to the place where I worked, the pipes and the midnight shift are being hoarded. And here people are crossing with the planets, and all the scientists are sleeping at home in their beds. And since Eddie came for evidence, instead of a photo, it would be better to shoot a video. Photos, if anything, you can reject and always say, well, how to make a meeting between Eddie Brock and Venom. Yes, everything is simple. Let him respond to a familiar woman, from whom he constantly buys newspapers on the street. Just a coincidence. In a city with a population of 900,000 Brocks of a secret laboratory, it was a familiar person who got caught. And then Eddie takes out the glass for once or twice, designed to sort of restrain the unpredictable behavior of the alien in symbiosis with his body. But what is even more doubtful, so this is why the venom in a woman's body has not been fucked up for a long time, the glass was so fragile and didn't come from here. Furthermore, the integrity of the camera from the Nimbiote is violated, and in the Laban the single door is blocked. That the symbiote escapes the confines of the laboratory, can do whatever the soul wants. What is he doing? And the guards on this are not weapons, no protocols for the action, no reinforced doors. And Eddie, in the midst of anxiety, leaves the laboratory as well as the supermarket. Well, almost like a supermarket. And if Venom already completely owned Eddie's body, what prevents him from appearing and overheating the guards? just like his kind of grub. And he knows how much time he spent in the laboratory, on a hungry poik. And here it is with the ardamentness of the products. And here he's getting away from them like a beaten dog. And all because they haven't brought the money for a full-size, computer model of Venom yet. Huh. Editing and Eddie are already home. He abruptly breaks through to the have-chick, plus a bonus begins to bring a friend who has got hooked into the body. And in the meantime, what a clever fellow has directly attacked Captain Shavidnost. In short, Drek and his thugs are racking their brains about who the mysterious fuck is that snuck into the lab, and he has a Tembiota. Because in a modern laboratory for the study of hostile aliens, I can't even bitch. There are no security cameras. What you have to find out the old-fashioned way and interview employees on the subject. That's who saw what. Well, I don't know how exactly. I ask everyone who was on the pastor. I'm sorry, but this is so funny. Well, it's sad, of course. Yes. You fired us. You fired us. Clearing. Clearing. It was necessary to ensure safety in the laboratory. They talk about all sorts of things once. Eddie continues to catch arrivals from Venom, and everything happens, somehow too fast and messy. It feels like the film doesn't have all the scenes that were planned. Here is Eddie in the restaurant, there is seafood. Here he is already, next in the tomograph, where the evil with her body Venom, obediently, gives himself to be bullied. Eddie leaves the hospital in Kazanka, in the tram, without her. The scoundrels cut out a couple of scenes again. Less than a year has passed, as the security guards still go to Zaslanovo Kazachka. And since there are no surveillance cameras in the lab, gypsies. Oh, yeah? The gypsy politely asks the doctor who took the symbiote. But you have to tell me who was with you. Dr. Katertis still gives up, for which he immediately receives an unplanned bonus, in the form of unforgettable, but unfortunately, fatal sensations. Well, the main evil day goes by itself, a well-trodden path to the deprived assholes. And without thinking twice, he deals with the best scientist in his laboratory. And this is when he still does not have a single successful alien symbiote with a human. If only someone would not be soaked, it would be more tormenting. Even Colonel Vorich, the war wolf, did not immediately begin to wet on the Wii. And here a scientist researcher is doing this. As they say, the fish will rot from the head, and if the leader of the Mamnobleshi, then the assistant cannot come up with stupidity. They know for sure that Brock is infected with symbiote. They break into the hut, and instead of silencing Brock with a lightning bolt, they start asking questions. Where is symbiote? Where? You're going to get a Monday. Yes, and it seems to be already known that the symbiote harms the sound, from 4,000 to 6,000 Hz. And he is oppressed by any sounds from 4 to 6,000 Hz. So why did they show up with less effective teasers? Nitron quelizers were not captured. Not even small networks. Apparently, no one taught these idiots to ask for an unpredictable situation with a person infected with a reasonable parasite. In the opinion of Venom itself, they are less strange. Not only has he not yet appeared post-ordinary will, but also the measure loved only sends security guards to the cot, without a single fatal outcome. Although Eddie immediately suggests it. And now, being blown up for fuck's sake. What's that for? In one pile of the body? In another place. The point is to offer it to him when the broom itself can do it without Brock's approval. No sooner had Eddie really left the house, than the security guards, who seem to have been worked out to an unconscious state, come to their senses, without the slightest hint that they had just been fucked by a super strong alien. And they are already rushing after the journalist in a crowd. And here it becomes a big surprise how poorly the line of interaction of Eddie Venom is revealed. Imagine, you are possessed by some kind of alien infection. Starts talking to you right in your head. Suck out of you black shit and control your Kel. This is not a great gift for the psyche, however. And Eddie somehow takes Venom very quickly without loss. And now they are already like good old friends, rushing around the city at all times on a motorcycle. Damn. Wow. There is a feeling that the screenwriters do not know about such a thing as the acceptance stage at all. Pologiki Eddie had to reject Venom with all his might until the last, and that would make them both uncomfortable. And only towards the end, Brock had to accept an alien being. In general, scenario potencies on the face and you can't call it anything else. After all, we have people as screenwriters, having written a script to such successful paintings as The Dark Tower, The Fifth Wave and 50 Shades of Grey. In short, the script is here. Which one? A good one. The very same chase is set with a bang. Especially, the musical accompaniment pleases. That's just whether there is a need for a living with him. And the background, with life is not fully aware of the alien's weakness, to use exploding drones from their side through cheers. Yes, it's common sense. There is 0 sense in behavior, but a couple of city blocks were broken up, in neighborhoods where there are still no hints of police officers. Yes, it's full of fun. Yes, and the drones themselves are going to be just for the entourage, since having ditched the car door, they leave it completely intact. And even now, when God himself has managed to appear and smash all the persecutors, Venom porn continues only to toss up artistically and makes wild moves. And now Eddie seems to be stopped, but the main jerk pretends that he did not see everything that Symbiote had just done on the road, and instead of completely paralyzing the target, he just comes to talk, and also right into the dents. He has that damn omnisci, or chicken blindness, that he so boldly approaches the one in whom such crap is sitting. And here she is. The fish of our dreams will appear in all its glory. Rhodes, Boldati, is beautiful, no doubt, but only a little slow-witted, so I would have devoured it for a while. By tying up, you bite off the heads in less than a second. So while you're using your tongue, time is running out. Venom runs away, and for the first time we see his strength and power, and then the question arises. Then, in principle, this chase was needed. When Black was able to simply trample all the cars and slip away to the nearest skyscraper, thereby saving Eddie from this driving. But no chase is needed. Venom throws Eddie under the bridge, where he declares that he needs Drake's rocket, but does not say why. We need Mr. Drake's rocket. As it turns out later in the symbiotes of the task, he will deliver millions of his relatives to Earth, and arrange his own on Earth, a kind of global purge, where the main dishes of humanity. We need Mr. Drake's rocket. Need a rocket? But in the next frame, Eddie will already come to the building of his former job, and Venom calmly obeys, forgetting about the rocket and about the relocation of his brethren to Earth. The guard Druzhbanov does not miss, and you have to get to the office of the boss of the editorial office, a proven Hulk, by a similar method. That's right. Venom decides to enjoy the beauties of San Francisco, and where exactly at this second a liner flies over them, the sound of which leads to the destabilization of Venom. Yes, that's just the rule of the Federal Aviation Administration. The United States prohibits planes from flying lower than 150 meters from the building. Vinnick wakes up in time, and now the boys are already in the right office, where Eddie leaves a phone with evidence against the Life Foundation. Yes, I can see how a person who found out that he has such crap in his body would also think about how to expose the billionaire goat. This is all interesting, of course, but when will it be about killing people? Yes, here you are. To diversify the movie, another action scene. A squad of heavily armed special forces is on call about breaking and entering. Well, to make it easier to try to kill unknown crap, smoke the whole room with gas grenades. Yes, professionalism and tactics are at the highest level. And what the hell? Noise grenades act on Venom. It was said that the sound with a frequency of 4,000 to 6,000 Hz harms it, and not the volume of the sound. And where is Eddie's humanity gone now? If he just banned Venom to sit another Haranica, then why is it now without acting and not resisting the Prim, who has nothing to shred dozens of warriors who are just doing their job? In another way, Eddie, like me, is not from the top 10, hears the sounds of a real war, the screams of people, and still runs there. Well, of course, the former boyfriend called here from somewhere an hour ago. We need to check everything ourselves. What is there? Even in the form of what the former Piston has turned into, does not almost score points and offers to take a ride. What the hell? How contagious is dangerous is not predictable. I don't care. Cool Bova, Jumpy. Yes, the symbiote from an unknown frightening alien has become a troll buffoon, who will always find a reason to pull some flat joke. It's like some kind of local hoodlum got into Eddie, and even from the signs of Netikov. In the car, on Eddie's word that her Keen will have Eddie and MRI, Black informs. Just like that, He took it and suddenly blurted out his only vulnerable spot to his enemies. Riot finally gets to the lab, and judging by his past exploits, he was clearly not sneaking into the Laban in the stealth mode. Then why is there no fire, no Revogi Obitaka on the object? After Brock showed 2 days ago that the local level of security, to put it mildly, is not very good. Shit. Yes, shit. Here for every meter a person with a heavy burdonk should stand. But in reality, there is nothing to do here. That Drake himself doesn't give a fuck that he's an employee. Bonnie did not blink an eye at the moment when the symbiote died after an unsuccessful crossing with Dr. Curtis. Okay. The riot is here and it's time for him to change his body. He was looking for Drake so purposefully, and so conveniently found not only that completely without outsiders, but also the bodies turned out to be perfectly compatible. Well, hello, asshole. Amy's hospitals. Her boyfriend throws blood vessels to the veins. Malone kills Eddie with his presence. The veins, as pumped, would be used by the power instead of arguments. Where Amy, in a second, thinks that it is necessary to jam a black whale with a fork. And it also understands lightning fast. Somewhere we are how to turn on the tomograph in the sound range. Venom dismisses Eddie from his position as a carrier. And I think he finds a new owner for himself for a short time. First a dog, and a little later moves into Amy. Eddie is being stopped right in the hospital by the leader of security, who finally realized not to be stupid, but to shoot right away. Yes, it's just too late to drink Barhomi when the kidneys failed. Symbiote will come out, but the fighting spirit remained. Eddie charges the ringleader with a tambourine, and then he filled everything with blood. He praised, and filled it with blood. The film is rated 13+. Oh, where there's even a speck on the floor. Think about it. We're robbing our planet, but we can't do the same. Yes, they led her almost to exhaustion. Gamora again. What did you take that for? I'm not crazy. You're a freak. A real bastard. You're hurting me, aren't you? The situation of the Sympod is not easy. Drake can't get Eddie out of it, and decides to let the journalists spend. And he goes out into the corridor, where the riot immediately informs him that there are millions of people like him, and it would be necessary, with the help of the Drake shuttle, to quickly organize the delivery. Millions and to planetary, guest workers. Understand the dick from the heads of space directly to Earth. To which the scientist, without any hesitation, informs. She mimics herself, and Hopa is already a rocket ready at the start. Without calculating the path, fuel, oxygen, food, everything is ready. It remains only to load the Shatal's ass. It feels like the planet K Lentar is right behind the moon. Good luck, common sense is gone. It's his blood. He's lying there. You'll see. I'll pilot the ship myself. But even on a full automatic machine, you alone will not be able to cope. I'm not alone. Here is a gift object with a profit complex. But seriously, after the words "I'm not alone," the specialists from the Flight Control Center had to ask a question. What do you mean none? Sir, you and the Cuckoo Ray are not touched? I'm not alone. It's like the roof has gone. We are urgently canceling the launch. Cantujani. I am his Lucity Chic throne. Immediately, Drake turns on the 5-minute rocket launch timer, and to make sure that no one else will cancel the launch, he saws out the whole soup in a cruel, but completely sterile way. Although as for me there should be something like that here. And you can see how the film lacks the cruelties that could make it better. It is clear that they wanted to make meat, but Sony has failed. 3. Let me remind you that Venom was inspired by the success of Deadpool. And the first news about him sounded like, Sony is going to make an R-rated movie as violent as Deadpool, but only Venom. And as a result, a bloodless Disney project that has been created by Allah. Meanwhile, Eddie is being taken to the nearest forest to be shot. And to be honest, I don't know how many Drake's people have tortured homeless people in the walls of the laboratory, but at the same time they have not experienced any problems with the disposal of corpses. But they made an exception for Brock and took him somewhere in the thicket of the forest, where the leader of the horde is taken up again for the old, and is taken in place of active actions to rant the victim, until the most critical moment is saved. Yes, and there is no point in asking the forest about how Venom found the Brocks. Found, as there is no point in asking about the absence of blood on the teeth, after biting off a person's head. Okay. This can still be tolerated, but the flow of the black parasite from one carrier to another, during a kiss, is somehow too disgusting. And both people don't mind at all. Sick people. They stomp and fuck. Yes, and that's when the plot becomes more dynamic. The filmmakers no longer have time to show in detail how each of the hosts goes through the adaptation period and gets along with the Mobio. They start simply ignoring this fact. Symbiotes calmly inhabit any body, without any suffering for the latter. They were so old. Only dozens of homeless laboratories, and a Bedninger sheet of Edelbrock. But most importantly, the claim is again to the culprit of the celebration, who, right in front of the eyes of the reasons that are not owed, is being tried. And now he is already putting the bolt on the task of resettling the brothers into symbiotes on Earth. I decided to stay here. You're dry. He just decides to stay and hang out with Eddie. With what fright on the planetary Venom suddenly makes the same movie, as Jakey Zavatara, starting to play for people against his amorphous relatives. There were no prerequisites for this Saturday movie. Well, I found a successful host. Well, I looked at the views of the city a couple of times and that's it. Even Venom himself could not answer this question. My hand has struck here. Cool. So the part that would shed light on this is clearly not enough for the film. Many justify the stupidity of the film by cutting out